Okay, welcome back to the Seven Deadly Sins Anime Review Episode 55. This one, final thoughts on the anime. Yep, now I started reviewing this series 3 years ago. Yep, 3 years ago, and I managed to catch up with this series pretty quickly. I remember I actually caught up with the series just before I was hired at my current job. Yep, just before I was hired at my current job, that's why I caught up with the series. I managed to get to this series pretty quickly over the course of a couple weeks. Yeah. Now, I had pretty much also, at this point, I was reading the manga before I started watching the anime. This was a routine I started when I did my anime I did just after I did Bleach, because the first major animes I did, which was Naruto, Naruto Shippuden, and Bleach, I did not read the manga read the source material prior to watching the anime. I made a mistake doing that, so I decided to basically read the manga, or in the case of some other anime I have watched, read a light novel. So the only one I technically didn't do this for was Ace Attorney, because that was based on a video game. Excuse me. When I initially watched the first season of the show, it was all dubbed, because when I start watching the series, the first season was dubbed along with the miniseries that came between seasons 1 and 2. And when I finally caught up with the series, the season 2, which was the season air at that point, they actually had a few episodes left. So I was able to basically do reviews on the final 4 episodes when they were coming out. And then after that, I didn't do much when it comes to reviewing the series until I did a review of the movie. Of course, I reviewed the OVAs the series had, which are kind of shorts. The only problem with the OVAs is that Netflix, who was the studio that dubs it, yeah, Netflix dubs Seven Deadly Sins. They never dubbed the OVAs for some reason. Yes, as far as I can tell, there's been no explained reason for this. There's only been officially three OVAs released. The last OVA they released was actually between seasons 3 and 4. And the thing is, the first 3 seasons, along the media series, all start seasons will start on time, except for this one. Season 4 didn't. Excuse me. The fourth season of the series was actually supposed to start back in October, but like everything else from last year, there were delays. Some shows were delayed by at least a month or 2 months. In the case this was delayed by 3 freaking months. And fun fact about this particular season of Seven Deadly Sins, it started the same month as the Quintessential Quintuplets. Yep. Everybody thinking, really? It started the same month? Yes, the same exact month as the Quintessential Quintuplets. Though this series did manage to finish up well before Quintessential. I think it started. I know it started the same month. I think that show started just prior to that. Though when that season wrapped up, it wrapped up the same week that Doctor Stone wrapped up its second season of the show. Now, of all the anime I reviewed, this is only the 5th anime I reviewed where I actually get a chance to review the final episode when it aired. The first one being Naruto Shippuden, though when I caught up with the series, this was an episode, I think it was like 596 is when I caught up. It was just after the Shikamaru arc wrapped up with that series, and I was able to watch the final arc of the series all when it aired. Because I think like the very week that I caught up with the series, they had just aired the finale for the Shikamaru arc for the anime for the final season show. The second one I did it for was, I think it was Tokyo Ghoul was the second one. I think the third one was Fairy Tail. The fourth was Black Clover. That was actually, believe it or not, that was about 3 months ago when they ended Black Clover. And now this has officially been the 5th anime that's ended while I've been reviewing, basically watched the final episode when it aired. Excuse me. Attack on Titan would have joined this list, if in fact that they had not announced they were going to have a part 2 for season 4, because there was still a lot of manga they could have adapted. And they announced a part 2 for the season, and it's going to start next year. Okay, fine. This season being 24 episodes was fine. And I like it when I see seasons that last this long because it's a pretty good length. Though I did notice, though, when you start watching the series, a look of how much of the manga they adapted for the series, because it's quite interesting of what they adapted. Let me bring it up here for you. For the Seven Deadly Sins. Yes, a series that started back, I think it was like 2017. Started around the same time as, I think it was My Hero Academia. I think it started like a year after My Hero Academia started. Well, I think it started the same year as it. Though, unlike My Hero Academia, this series actually is, the My Hero Academia is still publishing at a little over 300 chapters, while in the case of this series went to 346 chapters, the manga. Now, the first season covered roughly the first 100 chapters in just the first season. The miniseries that came right afterwards adapted a little bit of it. Yes. Yeah, I'd say like the last couple episodes adapted a little bit of pages 10709. It's the only time ever that the series ever had an original episodes. Because everything they aired for 7 Deadly Sins is all canon material. Yes. The second season show covered chapters 101 through 97. 197, that's as far as they went with it. The previous season went from chapters 198, and it stopped, I think it was at like 260 something. Yeah, they're actually in the middle of a story arc when they actually ended season 3, which that was quite something. And this season covered pretty much the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. Yes, it did. Yeah, it's interesting though the fact that out of all the arcs for the series, New Holy War was the longest at, let's see, at exactly 21 episodes. Yes, New Holy War took up 21 episodes. Which, like, 21 episodes, that's almost an entire season. Well, that's definitely true. Yes. Of course, also, there are some episodes that have some extra stuff. Like, in the case of the final episodes of Season 2, adapted a couple of the extra stories. And, of course, also the OVAs, where the first OVA adapted the first side story. The second OVA adapted extra 1 and 7. And 3 adapted 8 through 10, 15, 16. Yeah, so I'd say most of the anime has been most of the manga has been adapted for the anime. All the regular chapters have been adapted for the anime as the final episode. But the side stuff haven't fully adapted just yet. I would not be surprised though if we got another OVA. There's still a small amount of material for another couple of OVAs, but also there is technically also. There is also, however, a movie coming out. Yes. The Curse by Light. Now, the thing with the anime that I should mention, though, that the movie itself which is coming next month. It's not based on material for the series. Now, the first movie, along with the first 2 seasons, were made by A1 Pictures. Now, initially, this was about a couple years ago. It was 2 years ago this happened. After the movie came out, the first movie came out, the series switched studios. From what I remember, this reception was received as very negative. The fans of the anime were not happy the fact that the series switched studios, due to the fact it switched from A1 Pictures to Studio Dean. The rumor was the reason why they switched studios between seasons 2 and 3 was because the movie bombed the box office. I've seen the movie. First movie, Prisoners in the Sky. Really good movie. Fun. Do not know why they consider this to be a bomb at the box office. Yeah, I don't know why. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as I can tell, there's really no explanation for this at all. Yeah, I mean, box office wise, it made like in U.S. currency a little over five million. Not bad for an movie. Excuse me, but my guess is they probably consider this to be a bomb for some reason. I don't know why. But it seems like, oh, let's just dump the anime, even though that they also worked on a series that's very similar to Seven Deadly Sins, Fairy Tail. They worked on that the entire time. Yes, but they actually had help from several different studios for that one. This show only worked on this season. This is not the only show that I've watched that's made by them that actually switched studios with the following season. Their series being Ace Attorney, because the first season was done by Alien Pictures, the second season was done by Cloverworks. Yes. From what I can tell watching the anime, it looks like that the animation didn't really change all that much. It looks like the same animation. Despite the fact it changed too, it didn't look like it changed very much. Now, the one thing people were disappointed with when it came to the... Not this season, though. No, not the season. The previous season was the fight between Meliodas and Escanor when he was in his demon mode. Yes, if I remember the reception at that point, it was very negatively received. Yes, the reception for it was very overwhelmingly negative. But if you watch this season of the show, I think the delay the series got from moving from October to January of this year actually helped. Because the animation is, like, a lot better. It felt as though they had more time with it. I didn't hate the animation they had for the previous season. I didn't hate it at all. I thought it was okay. It didn't feel like it was rushed, per se, and a lot of people didn't like the animation when it came to a couple of the episodes of the series, but in the case of reception for this season, as far as I can tell, there has not been a reaction to the animation. I haven't seen anything online about it. No, not necessarily. I'm sure that the reception for this season has been overwhelmingly positive. Yes, because, well, the animation got improvement. They stuck very close to the manga. Unlike the last season where they had a couple episodes where they skipped half a freaking chapter for, like, no reason at all. But the one thing, in my opinion, and a lot of people agree with me on this, the one thing that kind of killed any hype for this anime here in this country was because Netflix has this very dumb policy as relates to anime. If it's an anime, lock it up for 6 months and then release it. Despite the fact it's released in Japan perfectly fine. Yeah, I've never watched a show on Netflix. Nope. The main reason for that is pure and simple. I don't have a Netflix account. And I prefer not to wait 6 freaking months after the season already aired in Japan before I finally start watching. I will watch the dub when it comes out, definitely. Like I did for the previous seasons. Like, the second season, I did watch the dub not long after it aired. And same thing with the previous season. As soon as the series was released dubbed, I sat down and watched the whole thing because I love the dub for the series. Of course, I did watch the series, I would say most of the series all sub, except for the first season. I never watched the first season sub because, like I said before, whilst I watched this series 3 years ago, the series was already dubbed in English. But the first season wasn't the mini-series that came right after that. Yep. But in the case of this anime, I do recommend it because it is a good anime. Nothing wrong with it at all. I know people didn't like the third season very much. It kind of similar situation that we had with One Punch Man, where switch studios and people crap on the animation. I'm like, really? I mean, if you look, the only character I kind of felt as though did suffer from the animation change was King for that series. This series, nobody suffered. Everybody looked exactly the same. Like, no character proportions changed. Nothing changed. Everybody still looked exactly the same. Despite the fact that they did change, I think the only thing they did change, they changed the coloring for the series. Where for the previous season, it looked a bit darker than it did in the previous season of the series. This one was still kind of the same element per se, but as time went on, they actually put a lot more light into the series. Just my opinion. And also, one thing that was kind of missing from this season was that awesome rock music that they had for fight scenes. I kind of felt as though that was tremendously missing from this season. And I do not remember if, in fact, the previous season had this at all. They actually had this awesome fight music for the fight with the Demon King, which was so awesome. Yes, it was completely one-sided, but it was awesome to hear this fight music again. Because the fight music, basically, I kind of felt as it was missing from the season. I'm so happy they finally used it. They probably were saving for the big battle with Demon King. That's probably my guess, anyways. And for some of the arcs themselves, I knew they were going to start with New Holy War. This is something I thought was quite interesting, though. They pulled a Black Clover. What do you mean by that? Where they kind of adapt the chapters out of order, but for good reason. They adapt because a lot of the stuff relates to New Holy War for the second half of the story arc did happen out of order, and I'm kind of glad the anime fixed that. Black Clover basically did the same thing, where they left off with that one was basically we had Death of the Wizard King and the apparent death that they never be alive, and we didn't pick up from the scene until 20 chapters later, and the anime fixed that by putting this together, and basically had this intersplice, have like a lot of chapters adapted, but this anime did a really good job with that. Yeah, it fixed kind of a problem. Basically, I think a lot of people had with the second half of New Holy War was that they kept jumping around a lot. Like, here's one place this chapter, and instead of going back to this location for about 10, 15 chapters. This anime actually fixed that problem. Because I think a lot of people had that problem. I'm sure they did. I had that problem when these chapters come, because when I start reviewing chapter for the manga, New Holy War was actually going on at that point. Yes, because also when I start watching the anime, I was already I think it was 100 chapters into the manga. That's why I started watching the anime itself, and then later on I did catch up with the rest of the manga at that point. It took me a while, but eventually got it done. Now, I didn't start reviewing the manga with the anime until I think it was just before I started reviewing with season 3. But this season overall was the first and only season there was no manga coming out, because the manga was actually, the final chapter was released 14 months ago. Yep. My guess is if it happened for the delay they had the previous year, they probably would have this series end almost exactly 1 year just after the manga already ended. That's probably my guess anyways, if in fact we didn't have a delay last year, but the delay helped. It gave the animators a lot more time to work on the series and got the series look so freaking. I thought it got a little bit lighter because that's how time went on when it comes to series. Yep. Though I should note about season 3, it's the first and only season of the show to not end on a happy note, because the first season did not end on a cliffhanger. Season 3 did. Though I think a lot of people didn't like how the scene went. So if you saw the way they adapted at the start of the season, they kind of, in the way for the first minute, retold the last bit of the final episode of the previous season, and they fixed it. They basically restored it to the actual manga ending to the scene, where it's basically where Mel, who at this point was Escanor, they have basically go crazy at this other location. And it's, at the same place as the Holy Knights. Yep. But not much up. But I thought that was really good they fixed that, because I think that was kind of dumb they did that. But I'm glad they fixed this other season, because I'm sure a lot of people didn't like that at all. So it was kind of similar to fixing the only other series I've seen where they start the very next season and they have the same scene, but it's more true to the source material than what they originally adapted. The only other series I've seen like this has been High School DxD, because when they started the 4th season of the show, they fixed the ending of the previous season but went for the source material ending instead of over the end, and basically ignored the original ending, which was bullcrap anyways. But that was the only season. That was the only season I could think of where it ended with not the actual canon ending of an actual like story arc per se. Yeah, but not much to say about it. It's good, and can't wait for the movie. What comes out next week? I'll probably watch it online because who knows when if it's gonna release in theaters or not. If it's released in theaters, I will probably see it. Hopefully, I don't know if Netflix actually released the movie. I don't think they probably will release in theaters. Man, the Funimation does, but would Netflix? Probably not. They probably release on their streaming service. I'll probably watch it later. Okay, so that's it for Signal Review. And that's probably going to be a video tonight. I wasn't working on the OVAs for Children of Darkness, but I'm probably going to work on that tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Yes, despite the fact tomorrow I'm also going to be working on Shaman King. Yep, the newest episode of the series. Now, before I end here, next week, there is no new anime for next week. No new series next week. Basically, first time in a while, Wednesday's going to be free. But 2 weeks from now, it is the return of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Yep, the series is coming back. I did original review the series 3 years ago, and now we're getting the third season of the show. I am so happy. We're getting the second season, coming in just 2 weeks. I will be discussing my more happiness when the first episode airs. Though also, basically, in case you're curious, the rest of the week, yeah, we have a new episode of Shaman King airing tomorrow. Nothing on Friday. And as for Saturday, we have the final episode of the first season for Don't Tell Me Miss Nagaro, and of course, newest episode Case Closed. But the following week, we have 2 new animes starting up. Yes. What 2 anime are they? Well, How Royalist Hero But Rewrote the Kingdom, which I'm looking forward to watching because they read the first 2 books. Really good. And I didn't know about this until Watch Mojo brought it up. Apparently, the case study of Volantes, Book of Volantes, that apparently is getting animated. I'll discuss that definitely more about that on Saturday. Okay, next video. Bye.